Welcome to InsurTalks with industry experts, an initiative by Mantra Labs and InsurTech100 firm building products and solutions for the changing world. The outbreak of pandemic COVID-19 all over the world has disturbed the political, social, economic, and financial structures of the whole world. The analysis by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs said the COVID-19 pandemic is disrupting global supply chains and international trade. Many industries have been hit due to this. In order to understand the impact of this crisis on insurance and insurtech industries, we thought about interviewing various industry experts to get a sense of the current situation. In these sessions, we will also discuss possible mitigation strategies and long-term business opportunities which could help revive the industry. Today, we have Mr. Andrew Warburton, Sales Director for Winsure Financial in London, a company that specializes in providing innovative investment vehicles that can be distributed digitally to clients or through professional advisors. He is also an advisor for Insurtech Hub in Istanbul. With over 30 years of experience in the global insurance and banking industry, he believes that insurtech and fintech are the only way forward to be relevant in the new digital age. Andrew has an international sales and marketing background working in senior executive positions with large multinationals in 6 countries. Mr. Andrew, I welcome you on behalf of Mantra Labs. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Almost every business has been affected by COVID-19 severely. So what do you think are the direct and indirect implications on the insurance industry?
Well, I think there's probably 3 areas of impact that are quite, let's say, obvious for the insurance sector. Firstly, there's unexpected claims, particularly for the travel insurance, also health insurance, and also life insurance. And what we've seen in many of the big cities in certainly Western Europe and also New York, that the kind of death rates are probably up by 50% on the normal monthly figures. So probably that's not such a huge impact, because unfortunately it's to be the older people that are passing away, and they don't have the same kind of need for cover compared to young families. So probably that's not such a big thing, but certainly the travel industry obviously has been really affected. Then I think the second part of it is just how does how do you reach your customer? Pretty much a lockdown. Agents aren't going to be welcome knocking on the door these days, so they're pretty much closed in at home. Very difficult for insurance companies and also banks to reach their customers in the normal fashion. And I guess then you've got the third impact, which is the economic situation, where definitely there's a major economic impact on some people aren't receiving their full salaries or any salaries, and yet they have to pay for all their insurance premiums that are still renewing it these days. So I think, yeah, it's a really major impact. And I know I have lots of friends and colleagues in Turkey, and the market's really deeply affected, and definitely, new business production has dropped quite significantly during this period. Insurance is a kind of business where really, the sale is prompted in some way by a person. Probably not so much, in some countries like UK, where there's a lot of already online, particularly car insurance is bought online already. But without that prompt, then people really aren't, probably going to buy insurance. And not only that, is if there's a shortage of cash, the last thing that they're thinking about is spending it on insurance. So for sure, I think that this would be certainly true across the globe. I would imagine, quite an impact in those areas.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Moving on to our second question. In a post-pandemic world, obviously after this situation, things won't be normal. But what do you think, will insurance be ever bought offline, or have we crossed the threshold for now buying policies purely online?
I've been sort of really engrossed in let's say, the InsurTech world for about the last 3 years. And, it's really a mixed bag of what we see around the world. We've got some countries that are really quite advanced in terms of digital sales. And we've got other countries where really still, still dependent on a piece of paper and a pen and somebody knocking on your door. I think we still haven't seen the major impact in maybe the developing countries already. It seems like it's the developed countries that have been hit in this first wave. Mm. So I think, maybe a good example is maybe Singapore and Japan, where they kind of, they were exposed to the coronavirus in the early days back in sort of January, and then they seemed to get hold of it and put it under control. And now it seems to be bouncing back in a certain way. So I think, what we're learning from this is probably for months and months, we're going to have some kind of lockdown. Maybe it's not as severe as it is today, but it's going to have that sort of lingering approach. And I'm sure every insurance company and bank is thinking about how do we reach our customer. I'm sure they're thinking about it. There is no other way. And when you see how Amazon's doing and Alibaba and even Tesco's, but people are ordering their food online, these are a boom. People want to sit there on the internet and buy things. So I think insurance is no different, and the trend will be more and more towards moving towards online sales. Clearly there is a trend in the world at the moment for people to buy online. Amazon and Alibaba and any sort of retail that's selling online is doing very well because it's not easy to get out of the house. So I don't see insurance as being any different. We're already seeing a trend towards online insurance sales. Okay. And I highlighted the point that this is going to continue and will become a bigger market in the future.
So moving on to our next question, consumers today, the mindset that has been building now is that now more than ever, they are seeking value-added experiences with the products and the services that they are looking to buy. Mm-hmm. How will these expectations amidst this pandemic backdrop impact new product innovation within insurance?
I think it's going to have massive impact moving forward. So again, it goes back to a little bit, some insurance companies are already investing heavily in artificial intelligence to understand what data they've got and what information they have about the policyholder, about where they live, about what their habits are. How many, for example, if they drive a car, how many miles do they do every day? Or where do they go? Where is the car parked? Or when do they go to the airport? So this data has not really been used in the past, but what tends to happen if you're a 35-year-old and you live in a certain district, this is the price of your insurance. But clearly we know if you live in a different street, for example, claims might be higher. We have that data somewhere, but we're not collating all that information. So what I see already is, companies want to invest in AI and machine learning to understand the habits and really treat a customer as an individual rather than somebody who's just, one of 10,000 in a similar situation. So I think that's already happening, and you can use that for health insurance, certainly for car insurance, home insurance even, even you've got two blocks on the street, one has a higher risk than the other. So, we have that data is in there somewhere, but we're not able to extract it. So this is where I think is AI, because the insurance companies have so much data, but they're not really using it.
So, so that's what that's what insurance industry will look forward to investing in this particular area.
Definitely. Some companies are already investing in it, and many of the new insurtechs, especially around motor insurance at the moment, they're probably at the forefront with various different initiatives. But they're trying to make the policy owner decide how they use their insurance rather than here's a standard insurance policy. So with the technology that we have, it's easy to put some little box in a car or even in a mobile phone and monitor the kind of behaviors of the driver.
Mm.
And that it's going to be possible to buy daily insurance rather than yearly insurance in the future. In fact, it's available in one or two places, or even hourly insurance. So yeah, where the markets are already changing.
All right.
So we know that across the world, many insurance regulatory bodies are introducing sandboxes for InsurTech startups to experiment with AI and new cost optimization technologies. So how does this affect their short-term impact for the insurance industry in terms of where insurance was trying to adopt AI? And on that note, in terms of fighting the current pandemic or in terms of scaling up operations to meet the demand, how is AI still a priority for them?
To be honest with you, I think AI is still a priority. I mean, I did a survey last year on LinkedIn actually, and I had about 300 responses, people from the insurance sector and from the insurance sector, and singularly, AI is coming out as the number one area that's going to have the most amount of impact from insurance. So that's not just my view, that's the view of many people in the insurance sector. I think with this pandemic, it couldn't really be predicted, and it may not happen again for another 50 or 100 years. I don't think you're going to see a massive change from insurance companies or any companies, trying to plan for the next one. Because clearly, it's almost impossible to manage. The United States, the richest country in the world, and they weren't able to manage in the beginning. Right. But I think, yes, everybody could have done things in a different way with hindsight. So I don't think, this new technology is going to help us cope with the pandemic better. But I think, the industry is changing and business is changing. And already, the most expensive way of distributing an insurance policy is through an agent. This is not because of their high commissions. So that cost is obviously passed on to the customer or the end user. And if you look at what's happened in the UK, for example, with car insurance, the reason why 80% of car insurance is bought online is because there's no agent commission. Therefore, it's 15% cheaper than if you go, through a salesperson. I think what these sandboxes do is it allows all these new InsurTech startups to have access to be able to connect into insurance companies much easier, and they can develop things that work in a much faster time. So I think that's this is why the sandbox is so attractive. The startups themselves have a good idea, but how do you connect that into the kind of real world? That's always been a challenge in the past, and that's really been made easier.
We have addressed the issues. So what do you think would be the possible strategies to mitigate these risks in insurance?
Well, I think we've probably answered some of those points already. I think, moving forward, obviously having digital distribution is going to be an advantage. I'm still in InsurTech. My new company is basically an InsurTech fintech company, focused on investments. And the whole idea is we're using AI and machine learning to develop investment products. But then we have a completely digital platform which allows us to distribute the product anywhere in the world. So a broker or a bank can log on to our system and take advantage of the digital system. So, it's easy for me. I'm a believer in InsurTech and fintech already, but these are the steps that companies will have to take. If in Japan, you can't reach a customer for 6 months, what are you going to do? So I think the speed of these approaches will certainly go up because everybody can see the advantage of being able to at least getting the client to, maybe through chatbot or through call center, to at least be able to talk directly to your client and get them to fill out claims forms online, or upsell, cross-sell, or whatever you want to do. The digital channel is the way to go. So yeah, my belief is that insurance companies, I think, to be fair, in Europe, most companies are already looking into this area, but not all. And even in very developed markets, like the UK, Spain, Italy, there's still companies that haven't invested so much in digitalization. And there's other big multinationals like Allianz and AXA, Generali, that have really put huge amounts of money into this sort of technology already.
Okay. Post-pandemic, the situation across the globe is not going to be the same. So what do you think would be the new normal or upcoming InsurTech trends that would prevail across the globe?
Yeah, so as I said, I did a survey last year that, and basically the three key areas for insurance or most technology, I guess, is artificial intelligence was coming out at number 1. Internet of Things was coming in at number 2. And then blockchain was coming in at number 3. But actually combining those things together is probably the way people see it. So firstly, artificial intelligence and IoT, and then later to be connected to blockchain. Probably the world's not completely ready for blockchain yet. But connecting, using IoT with the artificial intelligence is obviously going to have a big impact. So, what areas of insurance does that relate to? I think, first of all, insurance companies have a lot of data that they're not using. And I think, artificial intelligence is a bit of a buzzword, really. Everyone's talking about it. That doesn't necessarily mean, I think some people think that you just plug this AI into your data and it produces magic tricks. Of course it doesn't. All it does is analyze the data that you've got, and then you've got to do something with that information afterwards. So that's probably the fastest thing, if we're talking about insurance, then digitalization is step 1. Then having a look at the data you've already got, or at least creating data after you've digitalized is step 2. And then, what do you need to do then that's going to make a difference? So, obviously AI can be used for fraud by detecting, trends in your claims. Very much so it can be used in calculating premiums. As we said earlier, we want to treat people like individuals, not just one of many under the same circumstances. But of course, IoT is really connecting the client in their home as well. So I think it has to be a connection of those things. Blockchain is coming up somewhere behind it, maybe 2 or 3 years later. This is going to be important. I think, 2 or 3 years ago, probably we would have said blockchain was here already, but it's not really had a big role in the insurance sector as yet, but it has the potential to do so in the future.
All right, Andrew, that we have. That's about it. Those are the only questions. So to summarize, I believe digitization and AI and data, these were the main points, and that would be crucial in the next couple of months. So thank you for your wonderful insights. Thank you for taking out time and joining us for this interview. I hope that lockdown ends soon for you as well. And,
great.
And thank you very much, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the interview. Thank you.
Thank you so much.